Visit the Lone Star State of Texas, and you'll likely visit its capital, Austin. Dubbed the live music capital of the world, the city of Austin is well known for hosting events such as Austin City Limits and South by Southwest, as well as being home to the University of Texas. However, for anyone who lives or has traveled to the city, it is also well known for its traffic. Whether it's 5 p.m. during the week or 1 a.m. on a Sunday, you can bet traffic flowing on I-35 will be much lower than the speed limit. But why is traffic in Austin so bad? How bad is it? And is it here to stay? Welcome to the channel where today we will be taking an in-depth view on the truth behind Austin's traffic. Before we can determine why Austin traffic is so bad, we need to know how bad Austin traffic actually is. Is it just something complained about, or is there quantitative evidence supporting the claim? Well, according to researchers at the Texas A&M Transportation Institute, Austin ranked 14th for the worst congestion traffic in 2017. The average Austin driver spent approximately 66 hours stuck in traffic, and this number has steadily risen over the past decades. The study also notes that approximately 1/3 of this delay occurred off-peak hours, signaling that the problem is not isolated to rush hour traffic, but is instead likely to be due to a more fundamental cause. So fine, Austin traffic truly is pretty horrible, with hours of delay a year and wasting billions of dollars in time and gasoline. But why? Well, the causes of traffic in Austin can be broken down into 3 main reasons: Austin's regional location, the city's lagging transportation infrastructure, and the city's own self-imposed policies. One clue to the cause of Austin's traffic lies in its shape. Look at a map of the city, and one of the first things you may notice is the lack of major east-west corridors. Instead, the city looks smushed or elongated. In a more typical city, traffic flows in and out in many directions. Commuters from the east come in from the east, and those in the south come in from the south. However, for Austin, the only way in or out is through its 2 major highways, I-35 and the Mopac Expressway, both of which run north-south. This turns the city into a natural funnel for flowing cars. Nearly all the commuters coming into or out of the city must, at some point, flow onto one of these major 2 highways. This creates an obvious bottleneck for cars and trucks traveling through the city. Not all the cars on the road are for commuting either. Austin lies directly on I-35, which connects Port Laredo, a border city, with much of Texas and the Midwest, landing in cities such as Dallas, Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, Wichita, Kansas City, and Minneapolis. According to Forbes, Port Laredo routinely ties with Port of Los Angeles for a place as #1 international port into the United States. Now, not all of these massive shipping trucks are headed straight through Austin, but the many that do create a solid baseline amount of traffic traveling on I-35. When combined with daily commuters and other driving trips, it creates a nightmare headache for anyone caught in it. So, why doesn't the city of Austin just build a new highway that goes around the city? Well, they did. Another highway, SH-130, recently finished construction using a public-private partnership. Originating in Seguin, a small city outside of San Antonio, it runs around the east side of Austin, ending in Georgetown, about 30 miles north. The company in charge of the toll road boasts a speed limit of 85 miles an hour and claims that it can save up to 35 minutes on a trip from San Antonio to North Austin. However, current usage is low and the tolls high. A trip from Georgetown to San Antonio can cost drivers about $15. These problems aside, Austinites generally consider the highway too far east to be useful for commuters. Shipping trucks are not the sole blame for the woes of Austin traffic on I-35, however. Many times, roads and highways simply do not have the capacity to handle all the drivers who want to use them. This is known as network overload. In the case of Austin, decades of surging population in the metropolitan area has led to a skyrocket in demand for transportation infrastructure, most of which in the form of space for drivers. Normally, regional planning associations plan for growing populations by starting major projects early. Infrastructure improvements such as highway projects can take years to decades from conception to completion. This makes it critical for them to start before traffic becomes an issue. However, public transit projects and highway expansions have generally been shunned in Austin. The phrase, "build it and they will come," has been flipped on its head to imply, "don't build it and they won't." In 2000, Austin residents narrowly voted down a 15-mile new light rail line, missing the mark by less than 2,000 votes. The proposed line would have run up South Congress, through downtown, up Guadalupe, a major arterial, and ending north of Palmer Lane, about halfway to Round Rock. The project was proposed to be so successful, the federal government promised to prioritize its funding over dozens of other promised projects in other major cities. In 2004, residents again voted and approved the creation of what is still the city's only light rail line, the Red Line, a small but valuable win for pro-transit advocates. More recently, in 2014, residents voted down a $1 billion expansion to the city's light rail line. Surprisingly, the plan was defeated due to opposition by local pro-rail advocates who claimed the proposed line would be worse than nothing. This is not to say any hope for rail in Austin is dead, however. In 2020, residents will once again have the chance to expand the city's public transit capabilities under the CAT Metro's Project Connect, with a $7.1 billion initial investment. With the population of the Austin metropolitan area having nearly doubled since the year 2000, perhaps residents will reconsider their belief in refusing to expand Austin's public transit system. As for highway expansion, the Texas Department of Transportation plans to spend $7.5 billion in added capacity to I-35. The plan includes adding managed lanes as well as lowering the highway below street level. The project is set to start in 2022, with actual construction set starting as late as 2025. However, opponents argue the glory will be short-lived, as any highway expansion will follow the golden rule of induced demand, meaning more lanes will only encourage more growth in the suburbs and lead to more cars on the road. Regardless, with funding essentially secured, the project is expected to continue to move forward. The final nail in the coffin for the city of Austin and its traffic has been, well, itself. According to the Census Bureau, in 2017, the city of Austin was the 12th fastest growing city in the country. However, so were 3 of its suburbs. Pflugerville, Georgetown, and Cedar Park placed 3rd, 6th, and 13th respectively. As the population outside the city grows, so does the number of people who commute into the city every day. This unsurprisingly sharply increases the demand placed on existing transportation infrastructure, which, as we just saw, has seen its expansion stifled in the past decades. But why are so many of the people moving to Austin, well, not moving into Austin? In short, because the city of Austin has restricted the amount of housing that can be built in the neighborhoods surrounding downtown through its own zoning laws, the rules that govern what kinds of buildings may be built and what they may be used for. To understand how this works, let's take a look in the neighborhood known as Old West Austin, found directly on the western border of downtown. Its zoning code, like all neighborhoods in Austin, comes from the neighborhood's neighborhood plan. The most recent neighborhood plan for Old West Austin was adopted in June 2000. The plan describes historical sites within the neighborhood, marks green space areas, and most importantly contains this map. This black line marks the boundary of the neighborhood. Here you can see its western border, the Mopac Expressway. The thin black line marks property lines, and the color is the zoning. The yellow, covering nearly half the neighborhood, that's single-family houses. Here, instead of mid or high-rise residential building, a single house can be placed. And nearly every neighborhood in Austin looks similar. The polka dots, single-family housing located north of the University of Texas. The white, single-family housing located on the east side of I-35. All of this is to say that there is a lot of single-family housing very close to downtown. This forces developers and housing construction out of Austin, and the little housing that's left more expensive for everyone. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. A whole lot of time and energy went into the process of researching and editing this video. So please, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.